Belanglo State Forest in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales is an isolated and creepy place. A graveyard where serial killer Ivan Milat murdered and partially buried 7 young backpackers in the 1990s.
Do you really want to see what I'm capable of?
And now it's the scene of another violent death. 17-year-old David Octoloni, another young man viciously slain.
Now you move, and I'll chop your head off.
He was on the happiest day of his life. Everyone was a friend. Everything was going well. He had nothing to fear.
This is the first time David's father, David Sr., has retraced his son's final journey into Belanglo to see where he died at the hands of another evil Milat. Matthew Milat is the great-nephew of Ivan. And this is where it happened?
Yeah, right here.
Daylight in this dark place brings no comfort at all.
When you look around, there's nothing here. No one would hear you scream.
This is a horrible place to die. So lonely and so cold. But when Ivan Milat was jailed for life for what he did here, it was hoped nothing like it would ever happen again. So who could guess that 14 years later there would be another brutal murder in this forest, and that once again the murderer would be a Milat? This Milat, Matthew, was just shy of 18, and he took one of his closest mates, David Octoloni, to Belanglo and murdered him with an axe in November 2010. How can you come back here?
You have to know, you have to feel what your son felt, and to think why and how, what led up to this. It's horrible.
And there are no answers really, are there? There are no justifiable answers.
No, not for a choice of murder.
Perhaps the most chilling answer lies in a misplaced infatuation Matthew has with his great-uncle Ivan. Matthew's surname is actually Muleman, but as a 14-year-old he changed it to Milat to proudly promote his family connection with the backpacker murderer. What sort of impact do you think Ivan Milat had on Matthew Milat?
Most of us get our identity to some extent as children and adolescents by identifying with someone and trying to emulate them. I mean, this is, as it turned out, a tragic choice. He chose his most famous relative, but his most famous relative was a serial killer.
Forensic psychiatrist Professor Paul Mullen says this latest horror was calculated to shock, despite Matthew just being a toddler when Ivan Milat was convicted.
I mean, the name Milat, the fact that the murder is committed in Belanglo State Forest, this immediately makes one's flesh creep.
Bargo and Tarmor are the desolate tiny towns close to Belanglo where Matthew Milat and David Octoloni became friends. That one could go from mate to murderer has stunned the kids of this community.
How many times have we sat at train stations like this just for hours, waiting for trains?
They knew both well, and while they dearly miss David, affectionately known as Octo, they now say they never trusted the young Matthew Milat. You guys must have liked Matt to hang out with him? You didn't like him?
I never liked him or trusted him.
Why is that?
Just the way he used to hang around us, sometimes he used to sit there with a flick knife, just flicking his knife, not say a word. It was just weird,
What did he tell you about being a Milat?
We'd heard about his uncle, we'd heard his surname that many times, he did brag about it, true.
Yeah, hard.
He looked up to his uncle and he'd made that clear.
Matthew Milat was about to make it very clear just how much he wanted to be like his Uncle Ivan.
Nothing was going to stop it. His pleas, his cries. I think of them the most.
Back in Belanglo, David is reliving his son's final moments, recalling the horror of a planned and brutal murder.
Obviously, he was unaware. He was blindsided.
It was David's 17th birthday,
Happy f***ing birthday, old dad.
17, you made it.
and there were two others also in the car that night, Cohen Klein and Chase Day. All off to Belanglo to smoke drugs and help David celebrate. But it was a pretext, a murder plot devised by Milat and Klein. Half an hour later, David would be dead.
He was so young. And he truly was a kid. He just never got to grow up.
Hey, Octo. Give us a joint, mate.
Sadly, David knows the gruesome details of his son's murder because, incredibly, Klein and Milat chose to record it all on a mobile phone.
Don't you know how to roll a joint, birthday boy?
Evidence that would eventually help convict them. Milat heads to the boot, plays with his axe and psychs himself up. While Klein keeps the other two in the car until Milat gives the signal.
Oh, Octo, you're shit at rolling joints, mate. Can you just grab the bong from the boot?
Nah, you get it.
Mate, I'm too cold. Just do it.
But before David can get to the boot, he's ambushed by the axe-wielding Milat.
He was struck in the upper torso with that medieval axe. You hear the thud of that I'll remember forever.
Because of that harrowing phone recording, we know this was the first blow of the vicious attack that would go on for another 10 minutes.
You're dead meat, Octo.
Matt, please, man. Please, man.
To hear it live and hear his pain, his anguish, his panic, his fear. As a dad, it's horrible because you want to just reach through and grab him and pick him up and take him home, but you can't. It's got to play out and you've got to listen to it. And that hurts the most, being helpless.
Don't move. You move and I'll kill you.
Why Milat so savagely attacked David, we'll never really know.
Going around telling people my business, you end up getting hurt.
He claimed David somehow wronged him, but Professor Mullen says Milat just wanted to kill.
Or you cop an axe.
I mean, why choose this young man? The performance was the performance of a killing. The victim seemed to be almost an irrelevance who he was.
Look, man, I give my word, okay, I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, your word is fucking shit.
And watching his performance from the car was Klein, urging him on, and Chase Day, who at least once pleaded for Klein to make Milat stop.
Mate, don't even do that. That's Octo.
But chillingly, cold-heartedly, the taunting and the toying continued, with David begging for his life.
Look, man, I give my word, okay, I wouldn't.
Octo, I've had your word before and it ain't worth a pinch of cold shit.
Until the very end.
The most horrible sound is the final blow, to hear a life extinguished. David's groan. It's a horrible sound. It really is.
Does the brutality of that murder shock you?
All murders are brutal. What shocks me is the whole thing was, I think, scripted in advance in his fantasies. And that is frightening to contemplate. You know, I think it's about having the audience proving you did it. I am the stone cold killer. Look at me.
I'm not touching it.
Get out of the car and help me get him in the bush.
After they dumped David's body, it's believed Milat, Klein and Chase Day then went somewhere else in the forest to smoke dope before heading home. Some 21 hours after the gruesome murder, Chase, who's always maintained he was an unwitting, innocent bystander, went with his father to police to tell them what happened. He then brought them back here to show them David's body.
I guess we have to accept that our loved ones die, but we hope they do so without pain and without fear and with dignity. But your son was denied all of that.
He was. And we never got to tell him how much we loved him. And even in the morgue, I wanted to kiss him.
On Friday, Matthew Milat was sentenced to a maximum 43 years in jail. Cohen Klein, 32 years for his part in this awful thrill killing. And it was recognised that Chase Day, who was never on trial, had tried to stop the murder. In sentencing him, the judge said Milat is still a serious potential danger to the community. Rather than showing remorse, he appears to revel in the memory of the murder. Even as he awaited trial, he wrote poems boasting he was a cold-blooded killer. One gem goes, click, clack, hear that? Stopping in the middle of the track. Are you getting nervous in the back? Should be. You're getting whacked. You may well ask, is 43 years long enough for someone like Matthew Milat?
There's no doubt that this young man was trying to present himself as a dangerous killer. And he continues to do it. The poems that were written in prison after these events, it shows a desperate need to make oneself appear powerful and significant, when in fact, you're neither.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.